You know the thing about pissing contests? Everyone gets piss on their boots. Rebel Ridge, she wants more, more, more. With the midnight hour, she wants more, more, more. Aaron Pierre and Don Johnson. With Anna Sophia Robb and James Cromwell. So Rebel Ridge is a Netflix original, provided I didn't run everybody off with that terrible rendition of that terrific Billy Idol song, Not Eyes Without a Face. Okay, I'll stop singing. I promise. Except I won't. But nevertheless, yes, a Netflix original from writer director Jeremy Saulnier, who did Hold in the Dark, Green Room, as well as Blue Rain. Check out his IMDb page for the full list of his work. 3 pretty well-regarded films, in all honesty, if you check out the critical reviews and the audience reception. So, I heard quite a bit about this particular movie. It just dropped on Netflix a couple days ago, but I checked Rotten Tomatoes and I checked other reviews, like on Letterboxd, and I was like, okay, the description kind of makes it seem a little bit, I don't know, like, not painfully generic, but just like, alright, this might be okay. You have Don Johnson, who's been in some good stuff. Anna Sophia Robb, who looks fucking incredible. I cannot believe she's in her early 30s. Where is the time gone? I mean, seriously, it's absolutely amazing. But Aaron Pierre is a standout as Terry Richmond, a man that arrives in Shelby Springs in Louisiana, in one of the many corrupt parishes in Louisiana. I assume I have heard a lot of corruption goes on in Louisiana. That being said, he arrives to bail his cousin Mike out of jail. He has some cash. Some cops accost him as it were, and it turns out it's all at the behest of the chief of police. That's the sound of the chief of police. Okay, I said I was going to stop singing. I'm sorry. Can't help myself. I'm trying to have fun. Don Johnson basically makes life difficult for Terry Richmond. But it turns out that you shouldn't have done that. You've met with a terrible fate, haven't you? Because they mess with the wrong man. You don't mess with a man's family, and you don't mess with Terry Richmond. And from there, we find out what goes on in this particular sublet of a parish, whatever parish it is in Louisiana. And yeah, we just keep on going there. We get some action sequences, we get some plot developments, and we get sinkholes of corruption. We get Don Johnson being as most Don Johnson-y. That sounds kind of gross given his age. And we have Aaron Pierre wanting not to unleash his particular set of skills, but man, he is just pushed a bit too far, and thankfully, Anna Sophia Robb is there to help him every step of the way. I also want to point out that that the short hairstyle really does work for her. And yeah, it's pretty much like if you just, put a spin on the Jack Reacher, type story and everything and film. Even though Jack Reacher isn't the most original, you get the point. Guy has skills. Guy decides to basically take down a corrupt system, and there you are. So, Tale of Time, Beauty and the Parish Beast. So, the critical reviews, the audience reviews, were all pretty damn good. I mean, yes, there were some that were like, okay, it's average, it's all right. And I'm not going to say this is an entirely perfect movie. I have one main issue is, even though the pacing is really good, and actually I like how they layer things, and even though it's a familiar story, it's well told, they actually put a bit of realism in it until things kind of get thrown out the window. Maybe they could have cut 15 minutes off. That's really my only complaint. I'm like, there's a few scenes that are a little long in the tooth, as it were. And a couple scenes they probably could have maybe just cut out entirely. But everything is well layered. I'd say 90-95% of this really does work, even as it does fall into familiar tropes. So, is Rebel Ridge actually worth watching? Yes, it is. In fact, this is one of the best Netflix originals I've seen in a while. As far as original streaming content, this is the kind of shit that I want to see dropped on streaming services. Because this is the type of stuff Netflix could be doing. I mean, I'm not saying action movies like this all the goddamn time, but they have done so many movies that were so bad. The Union in particular was such a rotten goddamn movie. Rebel Ridge is a breath of fresh air into what was recently just an exhumed corpse of familiar tropes and action stuff and corruption of, craziness and everything and all of that. But it works. It really does work. It turns into a bit of a revenge thing. And also, you get to look at Anna Sophia Robb quite a bit. And that's a good thing. So yeah, her and Dakota Fanning being in their, turning 30... just doesn't register with me, given how many of us, around my age and maybe even a few years prior, if you've watched enough movies, you've seen them basically go from child prodigy to holy shit, they've actually had a really long career. Where is the time gone? And that's just absolutely insane. So, yeah, there we go. Corrupt PD and all that. And, yeah, familiar but fun. Very fun. And it really kicks it into gear a few times, just enough to really give you a taste to want to carry you along to a pretty good conclusion. Okay, yes, the conclusion is a little bit like, oh, that's convenient. But whatever, it's fine. Again, they could have trimmed a little bit off, but you know what? It was what it was. One of the best original streaming content movies of the year. It's on Netflix if you want to check it out. Is it a perfect movie? No. Is it going to be on my favorite films of the year list? Maybe. I don't know. It's hard to tell. I've watched a lot of shit this year, but some good stuff. So, that being said, I am going to get into spoilers. But Aaron Pierre, once again, very, very good as Lee Terry Richmond. 3, 2, 1, spoilers. There we go. So, we are into spoiler territory. I did kind of like how we had Number of the Beast by Iron Maiden playing us, and basically Terry's riding his bike, just, riding down everything. We find out why a little bit later, but these cops pull him over. One that actually does factor in a little bit later to the finished product. New Orleans PD and their prejudices. Well, Shelby Springs, but let's be perfectly honest, New Orleans PD. There's money for bail, basically, to 10 grand. To book to get his cousin out of jail. His cousin was involved in some deep shit that he didn't mean to get himself into. And then from there, the cops end up taking it. There was extra money. It was like 36 grand. He sold his stake in a restaurant and a couple other things, sold off his vehicle. Basically, they were going to get a truck and they were going to go, do fishing or something. They were going to get a boat. They were going to tow stuff. They were going to do something to earn money. So, okay, cool. All right, that's fine. And yeah, Anna Sophia Rabin, 31, almost 31. I think she was born in December, if I remember right from IMDb. But still, I'm like, it's hard to believe the long career she's had, going back to like the mid 2000s. She's had a nearly 20-year acting career, maybe more. So the chief is obviously super corrupt. Don Johnson does play this role well. Even if I will admit the villains are kind of generic, I guess that might be the other quibble that I have. But Aaron comes up with this, Terry comes up with this great idea. I might go back and forth with the actor and the character name. He basically contacts Mr. Liu, who was the man that had the restaurant. He needs some money wired to him to help him out. Okay, we'll do it. There's this cop, Jess, that does factor into the finish a little bit later. And he ends up, basically they find out more about him, and that while he was never deployed into Iraq, he has martial arts skills, and he is a really good fighter, they find out. In about 35 minutes, they kick in, and you shouldn't have done that. You've met with a terrible fate, haven't you? So, there's a property room with a bunch of guns and a bunch of paraphernalia and the cash and everything. He says to Jess, hey, I got your chief and this one cop tied down. Handcuffed down, you're going to get me my money. Just give me the 10 grand, because he made a deal a little bit earlier with the chief. Give me 10 grand, keep the rest. I just want to bail my cousin out. Well, he's got the money. He runs into Anna Sophia Robb, who, a little bit earlier, who was going to help him. It's also a side character, Elliot. And Anna Sophia her character's name is Summer. She has a bit of a backstory. She was a recovering drug addict. She wants to basically get custody of her kid back. And James Cromwell is kind of this judge that takes sympathy on her and everything, considering he's older than basically, anything in New Orleans. I mean, when New Orleans was built, James Cromwell was a teenager. I kid. Apparently, he's a very nice guy, but he is an old man. So, something about pissing contests led to that opening line. And then, basically, it turns out that there was, this particular lawsuit settlement thing that led to Shelby Springs having financial issues, to the point that the chief feels desperation enough they have squad cars and they have enough to pay these people, but they need to take all these guns and give them back to the people, because there's this weird SWAT redneck militia right out there that's all kinds of racist, saying that they need to hang that guy. And Jess, who, by the way, is a black woman, I do want to point out the actress who plays Jess, very good. Like to see her in more stuff. Thought she played her role very well. Yeah, that's something. But again, Louisiana. I'm not saying everybody in Louisiana, but yeah, maybe don't be racist. Maybe just don't. So, Mike was on the bus, and then, he had seen him a little bit before. Terry had. I'm going to get you out. And then he was worried about him getting attacked after processing. The chief informs him of that. Hey, here's the deal. We're flying him here to this hospital. You can either take this money and go. We paid off your truck and everything. We're buying your silence. Or you can face 30 years in jail minimum. And then it turns out Mike's actually dead. Mike was not able to be saved. I think the doctor was probably on break, or maybe the doctor was a voodoo child. Voodoo child. Oh, I'm a voodoo child. You gonna die. So, yeah, then more stuff gets revealed about all this. It turns out that there were a lot of detainees. There's something about funneling money back to help Shelby Springs out, or just to keep the peace by keeping people with misdemeanors in jail for 90 days. Now, since his cousin is dead, Terry's like, I'm pissed. I'm upset. I'm not going to take it anymore. But then he decides, I probably should just leave. But Summer has a folder full of stuff, all this corruption. And they're going to team up, because then she gets her house broken into. James Cromwell being in this with a fluffy cat just made me laugh. But yeah, she got drugged. She was a recovering drug addict. That was something that, got basically played up a little bit later on. They went to the well of one too many times, though, I think, on this. But he ends up rescuing her after a little bit of, sharing stories. And then they somehow managed to just get away to this restaurant. This restaurant, by the way, where Mr. Lou called and said, hey, we had these cops here and everything. I was mentioned, so now I can't make payroll. Don't worry. I have money, because he had all of his money. He was able to pay the bail, but then he had extra money, so he just left a stack of money. Where did he get the stack of money? Stole it, or stole it back, I guess. So, yeah, they're at the restaurant. That was abrupt, but okay. That scene was abrupt, and then other ones they stretched out. But basically, Summer and Terry come up with this idea. We're going to start the fire, and then it'll always be burning since the world's been turning. We are going to start the fire, and that's what they decide to do. So she basically talks to Elliot, who was a bail bonds guy, something or other, that worked with her. And she tries to get answers from him. Terry tries to get answers. They go to James Cromwell's house. That was hard for me to say for some reason. He has a cat. They were going to, they got questions answered, sort of. But then he took his wife's medication, basically because he was going to drug himself, because he felt that he was ready to, he felt, well, I'm going to get caught. They're going to catch me and something bad's going to happen, so I'll just do this. We never saw his wife, by the way. I can only assume the cat killed the wife. And you know what? You don't feed them. Cats will kill you. But the ambulance or whatever arrives to meet the drug. We don't see him again. So maybe the cat did. Maybe the cat drove the ambulance into a ditch. So a little bit earlier, by the way, one thing I do want to mention is he did actually get that truck in, paid in full, and was supposed to leave town. But then he ended up, getting shot at, and ended up actually driving it under a bridge. And was just parked there and everything, and he had gotten shot, so then he got fixed up at the restaurant. So now the idea is they're going to go to this courthouse. They will go into this moldy basement and everything, and they try to get these hard drives. The hard drives are destroyed. Let's get the SIM cards. Okay, let's get the SIM cards. But then she tries to go to a fridge to get something. She gets caught, so now we've got about 35 minutes left or so. Save Summer, save the world. It's like save the cheerleader, save the world. I mean, who wouldn't want to save Hannah Panettiere? I think I got that name right. So Terry basically chokes a cop out at one point. This cop, Eb, says he has a kid as well, but so does Summer, so we need to act fast. And Rebel Ridge is mentioned as a location. So that's where the title comes from. That's almost near the end of the movie. So all the chief had to do was not do this stuff. Summer had referred to an informant earlier Not Informer, not Licky Boom Boom Down. We're not going that. How's that for an old reference? Who gets that? Who gets that? But nevertheless, she talks about one called Serpentico, or Serpico actually, I think. Serpentico is a jobber on wrestling programming. Not a very good one either. So then, basically, he's talking on a phone, a burner phone, I assume. I don't know where the fuck he got it. He had captured Ev, the cop, and he was driving Summer's, like, Volvo, but it looked like a Subaru for some reason. But nevertheless, driving that, it's parked on the bridge. This cop gets to it, bashes that, and sees him. And then we cut to the truck that was under the bridge, and he drives out and everything. That truck that's still fine despite getting shot up. And it's been sitting there for a few days. Nevertheless, so basically we get back to the police station, and we see that, oh, Terry's there. He pulls the wall down. The walls come crumbling down. He uses non-lethal forces like beanbag shots that he mentioned earlier that was talked about with the chief. The chief talking about non-lethal effects. And so he decided to use those against him. And basically just shoot old man Don Johnson. I think one probably would have worked. Because the man's old. I mean, Miami was just getting established when Don Johnson was a teenager. I kid, of course. But it turns out Jess was the informant. And got one final standoff. But the evil cops drug her again. Drug Summer again. To the point she needs Narcon. Ev, by the way, finally has enough. He's like, he captured me, but he brought up some good points. We're corrupt. And then he gets shot in the femoral artery almost. Somehow survives. Somehow. It's fine. And then we get flash bombs, smoke bombs, and then we get, more smoke bombs and flash grenades and stuff like that. And there was this thing earlier that was mentioned about, from the police. You turn on the dash cam, or you turn on the lights, it turns on the dash cam camera, and it can record 3 minutes before. So because of all that, Terry was able to turn it on in time to show Ev getting shot by his own people and all this stuff going on. And then Jess, Summer gets saved by the Narcon. She's starting to wake up. This one guy got just elbowed to fucking bits, but somehow was okay enough to get on the car. But then she's like, why is there glass everywhere? And then she pushes him off the thing. And that was funny. But then we have one final standoff. We're on a state highway, which is pretty much all you get in Louisiana, from my understanding. There's state highways. Through the bayous and the swamps and stuff like that. So, we have the chief in a big SUV ahead. We have two cars behind. And then we have Jess. And Jess decides she's going to execute the pit maneuver. And that's it. And then she goes by and then slams the chief and turns him around and goes off there. And then it turns out all the cops are fine with this and escort them wherever. To the hospital, basically. Jess ends up arresting the chief because they had the footage. And Terry gets the dash cam footage, and that's it. That's it. That's where it ends. It ends at the hospital. Summer seemingly okay. Hopefully Ev's all right. So we stretch out a bunch of scenes, but we can't find that up. But you know what? Minor quibbles, really good. A. It gets an A. Rebel Ridge gets an A. It's a new twist on an old formula. Or a fresh twist on an old formula. It's just nice. It's refreshing. Like Fresca. Except I hate Fresca. It's a nice, refreshing 300 milligram energy drink that we'll be taking tomorrow because it's late. So, A, let me know your thoughts in the comments. Like, share, subscribe, Twitter handle in the description. I'm John Ricklin. I'll see you soon.